you for tuning in. Our next presenter is Jeff Rothstein, President and CEO of EQ Inc. Mr. Rothstein, you may begin.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and thanks to everybody for attending to hear a little bit about EQ. EQ is a data analytics and intelligence firm, and what we do is we try to combine data and AI and machine learning to allow our customers to understand, predict, and influence the behavior of their customers more so than anything they've been able to do in the past. The problem we're solving is something that we've seen over the last decade. We've been helping companies for the last decade really understand how to communicate better with their customers through all digital channels. We've got a DSP where we're doing media buying, but as we looked at the landscape and we started to understand what was really going to be more effective, and when we started to try to understand what we could do to add a lot more value to what was becoming a very competitive and commoditized market, we started to look at data. We looked at data and we looked at AI. And we said the best companies in the world right now are companies that understand how to use data and AI to their advantage and how they can use that to compete better than anybody else in whatever market they're playing in. And when we started talking to our customers, we'd look at them and we'd say, what are you doing with your data? What's your data strategy? And there were a lot of really blank stares, and we know that data is important. We know that over the last decade, we've been building all these systems through digital channels to have CRM systems and to have different systems with respect to web traffic and mobile traffic to understand our customer base better. But we don't know what to do with that data. We don't know how the data really should be playing a role. And when we talk to our customers, we'd say, if you don't understand how to use your data, you're going to be at a disadvantage right out of the gate. Data is a competitive advantage, and your data is proprietary to your organization. And you can't outsource that to another company. You can't say, well, my data strategy is, let me give my data to Google. Let me give my data to Facebook. Let them acquire customers for me. If you want to win and if you want to succeed, you've got to do four main things with respect to your data. You've got to control your data. You've got to own it. You've got to control it. You've got to understand it better than anybody else. You've got to think about how your data be complete. You've got to have complete data sets, because if you try to make decisions on incomplete data sets, it's like anything, you're going to do yourself a disadvantage. You're not going to be coming up with the right conclusions. Customize it so that it's asking the right questions and giving you the right information that you need to be successful. And if you haven't been doing anything with data to date, and if you haven't been utilizing it to your advantage, you better start moving pretty quick, because there's a huge catch-up phase you got to do if you want to stay in the realm of being able to be competing against the big guys sufficiently. So what we've done is to solve this problem. We started building a SaaS platform 5 years ago, where we said if we could help companies and if we could help our clients understand, organize, and execute better on their data sets than anybody else, we think that we're going to put them in a position to excel. And our SaaS platform, which is called Locus, does three main things. It allows brands to utilize their data. We're able to ingest their data sets in a very secure and efficient fashion, so that utilizing their data sets, they can start to action upon that data better than they could do in the past. The second thing is to go and complement and enrich their first-party data with what EQ brings to the table. Through our proprietary and third-party geospatial data sets, we're now, in Canada, the largest geospatial data company. We have the largest geospatial data sets. But we bring those data sets together so that we can enrich all the first-party data. And then thirdly is we wrap that data around predictive algorithms using machine learning and AI. As an organization now, we're about a little over 50 people, over half of which are data scientists and engineers. We've got predictive algorithms, and using machine learning and AI, we can come up with some kind of actionable insight that allows us to do things better and allows our customers to do things better than they can in the past. So when people think about EQ, they're thinking about working at the intersection of data and AI to help get us to the point where we can be way more powerful and allow our customers to be way more powerful than they would be on their own, just using their own systems. We're trusted by some of the world's largest brands to, in a very secure and effective way, take data and make it actionable. And we want to make it actionable so that they can understand their customers, they can predict both their current plus their future customers plus their industry changes, and make predictive insights, and then influence consumer behavior by actioning upon those insights. Right now, people have been relying on the past to utilize their data strategy are quickly becoming competitors. The Googles, the Amazons, the Facebooks, they do some good work, and they do a lot of good work, but they're powerful, they're strong, and they're using customer data, they're using other businesses' data to enrich themselves. And by doing that, companies are starting to realize that they're becoming competitors very quickly. They're, partners in some ways, but then they're competing against us, and we've got to do something to control that data set again. And they have two choices. They could build something, and the biggest and the best companies will try to build, and then the majority of the companies will say timing is tough, expertise is tough, skill sets are tough, data sets are tough, so let me find somebody to partner with, and that's where we come into play. Because from a partnership standpoint, we have technology that's ready. Any first-party data that our clients bring to the table still resides within their instance, and they're totally in control. We, with the largest geospatial data sets in the country, we can go and enrich data in very different ways. I've got a data science team with machine learning and AI, data scientists that can build, understand, and help them execute better than they can on their own. So let me give you an example of what that means. Real-life example about a grocery store chain that I went and I met with a couple of years ago, and we talked to them and we said, this is what we do, and they said the last thing we need now is more data. To which we took a step back and we said, okay, that's interesting, so tell us why you feel that way. And the answer was, well, I know everything about what my customers do when they're in the store. I know what they buy. I have a loyalty program, so I know, how frequently they're buying. I know how frequently they're coming in. I know how much money they're spending with me. I know all the data that I need to know. And we said, that's correct, and that's data that we're never going to have. I'm never going to know more data about what happens in your store than you do. I said, and let's call that data abundance. When you have customers in your store, you know 100% of what happens. The challenge is when they leave your store. And when they leave your store, you go from 100% data abundance to data blindness. Because when they leave the store, you have no idea what happens next. You don't know if they leave your store and they go to a Whole Foods or a Costco, or they leave your store and they go to another grocery store down the street. But if you knew that, would that allow you to communicate with them better? Would you allow them to, would you communicate, would you actually incentivize them differently? Would you be providing different promotional offers that would allow you to do more with those people? And for sure, the heads start nodding, and if you could take that data and then fill in the missing gaps with what we can bring to the table, all of a sudden you've got a much better picture and a much better understanding of your customer base. And if we can fix the holes of that data deficiency, you can make better decisions on how to go to market, on how to target, on how to strategize, and how to incentivize. And that's what we bring to the table. We have data sets now, again, for the last 5 years we've been collecting data. Start with geospatial data, and think of geospatial as just being where people go and what they do in the real world. And then we just complement it with dozens of partnerships that give us data on consumer behavior, on real estate, MasterCard, insurance, automotive, credit card, census data. We're bringing all these different things to the table. We're loading all of these into our platform, into our Locus platform, so the customers can utilize and our clients can utilize all of these data sets to help them make better decisions, put better action items into place, and really help them build their business way stronger than they have in the past. Locus right now takes first-party data, our proprietary data sets, plus what we've got with our third parties, wraps it into that Locus brain. And through the predictive modeling, the machine learning, the AI, we come out with all types of different action items. We do audience segments, CRM enrichments, we've got attribution tools, we've got different types of machine learning. All of these different areas can come out, which just further empower and enrich the data and give better decision-making criteria to our clients. Just give you a few examples of what that looks like. And these are all real examples. And the first one that we're looking at is something that happened with one of the financial services companies that we were talking to. And the financial services company came and said, listen, I've got to try to figure out how to get and grow the monetization of what I've got from this segment of our customer base. And they showed us a list, and they said, this is a segment we've got, and it had, hundreds of thousands of people, and here's a segment right now where we know that they've got, a checking account with us, and they've got a job because we can see pay stubs coming in every 2 weeks, and they have a credit card with us. We know they have good credit rating because they don't pay it off every month, but we can't figure out a way to monetize and get more, and we keep sending them all these generic materials, and it's not working. Can you help? We said, maybe. And we went back and we said, well, took the segment, and we took, again, all PII respectful, so we don't have any PII that we use. We're doing all of this very anonymously, but we looked at that set and we said, well, here's a subset based on the other data sets that we bring to the table. Here's a subset of that group. What if I told you that there was a bunch of first-time home buyers? And what if I told you that a lot of these people work in the financial district, like high-end restaurants, just had a baby, make a good living? What would you do differently? And then the marketing teams at the bank just said, well, if I knew they were looking for first-time home buyers, I'd target that segment with these specific mortgage products. Great. Just had a baby? How about sending an advisor over to talk about RESP advice for the newborn? Interesting. Likes high-end restaurants and other fancy things. How about a more higher-end credit card that we could target them with better rewards, better incentive programs? Like things like that, if we can bring those to the table, and if you can get a better understanding of your customer, the ability to monetize, target, communicate goes through the roof. And that's kind of what we bring. And same thing we did with real estate, and again, a lot in the consumer side as well. Automotive, big vertical for us. We had an automotive an agency that brought us to the table for automotive, and this was an example we did for JAG. And basically they said, hey, we want to do this. New models are coming out. What can you do differently? And the agency said, hey, well, why don't we just target high-income areas where we know people drive fancy cars and they have a lot of money? And everybody kind of nodded, and they looked at us, and they said, what do you think? And we took a step back. We said, well, I think that would be great, 5 years ago. But what if we thought about it a little differently? Given the geospatial data sets that we have, where are your best customers today? And what are they doing? And they came back and they said, well, our best customers today are basically at the BMW dealership, the Porsche dealership, the Audi dealership looking for cars. And we came back and we said, well, what if we could create an audience segment about those people that have been in these different car dealerships over the last month or 2 months? And what if I can then overlay that with an idea of, where people have car leases for fancy cars that are coming up for renewal? Or what if people are, insurance policies where I could say, here are people with high-end luxury vehicles, and it's getting to be 7 or 8 years old, which is typically when they need maintenance, and maybe we could sort of incentivize them to buying a new high-end vehicle. Things like that come with all of these different data sets to target, to understand, and execute, all of which is very, very significant. We then take that to the next step and said, that's the understanding piece. And if we can understand and we can scale and we can execute, it's great. But how about predictive modeling? And just a quick example here on the predictive nature of things. We had a bank that came to us and they said, we're now dealing with new mortgage products. And with these products that we're looking at, we're really trying to get to the point where we can go and we want to have, more people. We're being very aggressive. We want to go out there and talk to people about why they've got to do this, and we've got affiliate channels and marketing efforts, and everybody is telling everybody about these new products we've got. We now have an inflow of applications that we cannot get to fast enough. So if we don't get to these fast enough, a lot of them go stale. And the problem is that we're missing out on some really good opportunities because we're doing this all FIFO basis, and we're missing out on good opportunities, and we've got some, a lot of time wasted on the bad ones. Can you help? So we said, maybe. So they ingested with us about 25,000 of these policies that they've got, and they labeled them A, B, C, or D. A being great, profitable, D being we would never want to do these policies again. And our data science team went back, put them into Locus, ran all kinds of queries and understanding, and used about 2,000 different data sets against all of those policies to come up with an algorithm that said, we think we can predict now where your A's and your B's are going to be. So you can focus on those A's and B's. And they said, you think you can do that? And they gave us another 25,000 policies. And they said, here you go. This time just a home address without the classification. And then we came back and we ran it through our algorithm. And we said, here, this is what we would do in classification-wise. And they said, 93% level of accuracy, which is better than we can do internally. And we're now changing the whole internal business process for them. So when applications come in and they go through our system, the A's and the B's are analyzed first. The A's and the B's are put to the top of the queue. The other ones we're not wasting time on. Their ability to close high-end profitable accounts has gone up significantly by using our modeling. So understanding predicting, and then influencing key components for how we go and we push this through. Big question people then have is, okay, sounds interesting. How do you make money? And I like to consider our model here for a financial model to be sort of SaaS plus. So we've got now a SaaS platform through Locus that we have clients licensing from us. To be clear, we spent years building the product. At just middle of last year, we started really going hard with trying to get more licenses. June 1st of last year, we had $0 in MRR. Fast forward to December 31st, we had over $120,000 of MRR. That continues to go through our system. So the licensing component of Locus continues to sort of be something that we are getting a lot of good traction on with our customers. Again, big verticals for us, insurance, automotive, out-of-home retail, big verticals, but the licensing component is great, and the MRR is starting to grow. So pure SaaS revenue. When people do go through our model, there's also more project-based work that comes out. So the data's in there. They've got first-party data, our data, third-party data. They want to start running some reports or some queries. We've built a system now that is 100% self-serve. And with the self-serve model in place, they can go and start running their own queries through Locus to understand more about what they can get, better audience segments they can buy against, better understanding of where their customers and the competitive landscape lies. And as you can see in this, all of those items, piecemeal, it's something that customers and our clients can choose what they want to run. Pricing is out there as soon as they go. An instance is built in the cloud, and that is run for them and delivered. Self-serve, very much on a project basis, but something that clients can go in and execute against. Third is the influence side. We do have a DSP, a programmatic platform that we've been operating for literally close to 10 years now. And with that programmatic platform, people can then go and buy media through us. So if they want to buy media through our programmatic platform, which we call Atom, they can buy it through us. To the extent that they say, well, we want to buy through Google, that's not a problem either. We can take, or the Trade Desk, not a problem. We can take our audience segment. We can export it to those other companies if they want to buy media through. And then we just charge a CPM rate on top of that for our data usage. And again, we're continuing just to apply some additional incremental value associated with whatever comes out of the system. So SaaS revenue, all kinds of projects, insights, intelligence that comes out of that SaaS through projects. And then on the execution side, we continue to make money off that as people go and buy media or execute against it. We've got a bunch of things that I consider to be very, moat around our organization, or very proprietary for what we built. The first is the IP. We have built AI machine learning models focused on geospatial data for the last 4 or 5 years. Extremely strong with that. We do have different types of modeling now, and even different types of tool sets that companies are using. So the IP around that's very strong. The data that we've got, it says 4 years. We've got almost 5 years of data right now. So much historical data that the extent that we have to pull things pre-COVID, do tests pre versus hopefully soon to be post-COVID, we can understand that. We do have software that we've developed, and we've got a lot of exclusive relationships with various data providers. Revenue side, as you can see over the last 3 years, we have had a really good push with revenue. We've had a lot of growth, with the exception of I like to call it our quarter of COVID. There has been some pretty significant growth following that. And then what gets us even more excited is that the actual data growth continues to rise. So even in a period of COVID, we were still able to grow the data revenue. The data engagements, the work that people are looking at us for with respect to data, continues to grow. And I think the insights and the tool sets and the ability for us to execute just continues to get stronger. Data companies, again, this is just a small list, continue to be coveted. People are looking at data companies. How can they be integrated into bigger organizations? How can they influence different types of things? Every industry, every big company, technology, agency, telco, fintech, all these companies are needing to get data and really much stronger with their data sets. And again, the tools that we provide are very interesting for a lot of reasons. Our team, again, this isn't a team that sort of grows sort of incrementally in terms of, small little growth year after year. This is sort of a team that we put together really that looks for exponential growth. Our team's ready to, we've managed billion-dollar organizations before. We've been involved. I've been doing this for 20 years. Our CTO built the first mobile network in Canada. Our COO has been, ran Snap in Canada, Microsoft, AOL senior positions. Our biz dev team led by Mark is really focusing on sort of how to get in front of people and really scale things aggressively. So it really is a team right now that is focused on growing and growing aggressively. And as you can see, over the last couple of years, we have had some good growth, and the capital structure is being able to reflect that a little bit, although I still believe that some of the best growth and the biggest growth opportunities, especially since everything we have right now is in Canada, still shows how we will continue to grow in Canada, but then really push aggressively into the U.S. So that is our presentation, and I do have a few questions here that people are asking. Audience segments. So people are asking about, how our audience segments work. If you want to go through that influence side, how do we get from the influence in terms of getting messaging, get some type of interaction with people or with groups or audiences you want to get in front of? All of our segments that we do, and go back to that Jaguar example, I create an audience segment around all of, we call it competitive conquesting, all of the people that are in, all of the areas that people are currently looking in right now at the various dealerships. If people want to execute and get messages, talk about how great an incentive program for this automobile or the new features with respect to the new model coming out, if you want to get in front of that, that can be done through us. Again, we do have the ability to do that. Or absolutely, it can be exported to the trade desk. It can be exported to Facebook. It can be exported to other areas where people are really able to go and say, hey, we can use your data sets, and if we want to get through these other areas or these other companies, we can do that absolutely without any real hassle. We've made it easy to do, and again, we still are able to charge a CPM on top of that. Another area where I think people are focusing a lot on for us is the out-of-home market. Out-of-home is a big piece for us. We've spent a lot of time developing technology that allows us to really understand what happens in the out-of-home market. We can understand sort of the types of exposure to the various different types of audiences that go and how it differentiates from one out-of-home ad placement to another out-of-home ad placement. We can do attribution modeling for out-of-home segment. That is an area that we are focusing pretty hard on. There's been a lot of very sophisticated technology that's been built around that. And although there's only a few out-of-home players in Canada, being able to push that into the U.S. is also something that we continue to focus on, and it's something that's going to be, I think, pretty significant as we go into 2021 and 22. When it comes to sales strategy, the two things we've got is we've got a direct sales team right now that is going after direct clients. So our sales team right now is going after brand direct, in the verticals that we talked about, financial services, automotive, retail, et cetera. We're going after those in a brand direct way with the products that we've got. Another area that we think going to market is going to be very successful, and what has been very successful to date for us has been a channel strategy. Channels can be anything right now from agencies. Agencies are a big part of our portfolio. We can look at data partners, the data partnerships that we've got. A lot of our data partners continue to bring us in and say, we've been selling these data to all of these different companies. With the technology you bring to the table, we can even do more. We can get more value out of that. And so we'll have all kinds of data partnerships now where people are bringing us into their end customers to try to develop something that's better. And then we have other clients too where they've got great data sets, and what we're able to do with their data sets is bring them to the table, enrich them with ours, and then execute media against them. So really right now we've got sales strategy is twofold, which is one on the direct side, because we've got a sales team of about 8 people who are out there focusing right now to get in front of clients directly. And we have multiple agencies, multiple data partners, multiple other channel partners who we're working with to both go after their customers and utilize their data to be able to execute more effectively. For us, as I'm looking, and I'm time-wise, we don't have a lot. I think that the big things for us right now as we look at, and I'm looking at the questions here to make sure I can address everybody's big things as people are focusing into 2021 for us is going to be the growth of our data revenue. Data revenue for us is going to be a key component as we continue to push. and as we continue to sort of to push forward with respect to locus and locus licensing and even additional data sets that come to the table. So all of those things will be a big push. Growth in data will be huge for us, as will be movement into the U.S. I think our ability to continue to grow in Canada is going to be significant. Our growth into the U.S. is going to be where we have huge opportunity. I keep looking now at us, and I think the heavy lifting, the hard work to get the data and get the leverage out of what happens in the Canadian marketplace, that's difficult to sort of grab that data, find the insights out of that data, scale that data appropriately. As we get more and more into what happens in the U.S., I think there's going to be all kinds of additional opportunities. And I think that's going to be a combination of organic growth as well as into the U.S., organic growth as well as potential M&A. Another question here is going to be about personal information and data privacy. Great question. And I think I'm going to answer that two ways, which is, number one, there's what we do as a company, and then there's number two, what happens from an industry perspective. To be totally clear, what we do as a company, both operationally and contractually and within our systems, no PII is ever collected within our systems. We do not, from our data partners, accept or ingest any PII. Data that we collect, to the extent that we even have access to it, never hits our servers. No PII ever comes into our organization, full stop. As far as the industry, people are talking about, what happens with mobile changes, what happens with cookie data. All of those things are things that our team has been forecasting and really predicting for 3 or 4 years now. So what we've done internally is we've got the data sets that we do have and the data sets that will continue to come in, because we know it's data that is going to be, again, industry is changing, but the data sets that will continue to come in, we've got modeling right now, we've got algorithms. We've been able to do everything from machine learning models and various AI inferences to getting deterministic and predictive modeling in place, to also looking at synthetic data sets with respect to mapping. What we're doing right now and what we've been doing for the last 3 or 4 years is building systems so that as data sets change, whether some areas will increase and some areas will be reduced, as our clients' data sets change with respect to what they can and can't do with respect to private data, we are changing things, and we've always been building so that none of that will impact the way that we can service our customers or the way that information gets ingested and analyzed within our system. So 100% privacy compliant. We have been, we will continue to be, and everything we build out for the future will revolve around that. And then last one, as I'm getting pulled off, is it fair to say that Trump is, we have, again, people are asking now questions about our partnerships and whether or not it's someone like a Trade Desk, a partner, a competitor, other companies out there. We fall into a really interesting spot right now, because I would say that a lot of the other technology companies that are out there, both on the media side and on the data side, a lot of them are partners. They're partners because what we bring to the table really allows data companies to execute better and to both ingest and analyze data better than they could on their own, so partners. When it comes to other media buying companies, we can do media buying, but to the extent that people don't want to use us, they want to use others, that's fine too. So they can go and literally we can outsource it. We're looking at how we do things and help our clients do things better, more effectively, and more efficiently. And so data companies, media buying companies, analytics companies, partnerships. A lot of those companies are basically partners. All of those, if you look at those media companies, data companies, analytics companies, we're working with different companies in each of those fields, in each of those verticals, because what we can bring is a way to get them better information, more effective information, or allow them to execute better than they could on their own. And I think that is our time. So thank you very much. I do appreciate everybody taking the time. And please visit our website or feel free to reach out anytime if there's more information that we can provide.
And that does conclude today's webcast. Thank you so much for joining.